Hey fellow Force users and fellow Skrulls, what is up? It's Jasmine, the Ahsoka Tano fan. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So guys, it is Wednesday again, and it is time for another episode of Secret Invasion, which is the third episode. It's already going by pretty fast considering we have only 6 episodes to the season, so we're at the halfway mark now. I did have a chance to watch the episode. I thought I would do another review type video, and it was definitely an interesting episode. Some things happened that I didn't necessarily expect. And so I'm excited to get into it with you guys and break down the episode. And of course, you guys let me know, as always, what you thought of the episode down below in the comments as well. So without further ado, guys, let's invade our way into the review and discuss the episode. In the opening scene, we see one of the Skrulls that we saw from the first episode. Beto, I think is his name. And it looks as though they have some type of plan to infiltrate a Navy base. Of course, we see how this plan turns out later on in the episode. These Skrulls are given different files with different individuals that work for the Navy, just again showing how dangerous Skrulls are. They really can impersonate anybody. And in the following scene, we see Gravik walk towards the machine. We see that married couple, the ones that are scientists, the Dr. Daltons. And we also see the Skrulls that were impersonating the politicians, the members of the Skrull Council. And he reveals his plan to them to create super Skrulls and that he has infiltrated the Navy base. So it's quite an opening scene, definitely sets the tone for the rest of the episode. We then go to a scene which takes place in New York City in 1998. So we know that it's a few years following Captain Marvel. And we see Samuel Jackson go to a coffee shop in which he's there to meet someone, although he doesn't specify who. He instead meets a woman whom he knows is a Skrull. He mentions that he likes the new face, and he refers to her as Varra, but she has the same face as his wife, who we saw at the end of last episode. So the fact that he called her Varra means that he knows this woman is a Skrull. But then when we see his wife later on, he calls her Scylla, which I guess is short for Priscilla. Is Priscilla the name of the human that she's taken the form of, and then her real name is Varra? But either way, we found out that that's her Skrull name, Varra, based off of that clip from 1998. That answers one of the questions that I had from the last episode, which was, does Nick Fury know that she is indeed a Skrull? Which of course, I guess this makes sense that he had to have known. But it does raise the question, who was he there to actually meet at the coffee shop? Was he looking for his wife, but he just wasn't used to seeing her in that human form? Or was he looking for somebody else and we still have yet to find out who that was? We then see a scene of him and his wife making breakfast together, and which the phone rings, and I noticed the Galaxy Z flip, by the way. Right away, the question is raised, who is she speaking on the phone to? Just like Samuel Jackson's concern, has she been in contact with Gravik at all? I think that we get a little bit more of an answer to that question by the end of the episode, so we're gonna get to that part in a bit. Moving on with the rest of the episode, we then see Gravik speak to Gaia, although it actually felt like more of an interrogation, in which he was insinuating that she had been speaking to the cops. They spoke briefly about Brogan, who was obviously the Skrull that Gravik had killed in the previous episode. It's kind of an interesting scene because during this scene, Gaia ensures that it's not her that's leaking information, but she also says in the same breath that she's a good liar. So it kind of does play into Gravik's point a little bit, which was, how does he know that he can trust her? Especially when she just said she's a good liar. I suppose that is one thing you could say about the show. Everyone is a good liar. They then have a car ride shortly after in which Gravik reveals that Talos called for a meeting. Immediately you're wondering, what's this meeting about? How is it going to go down? Gravik over phone also reveals some key parts about the plan. And as soon as he said that, my first thought was that he was laying a potential trap for Gaia to see whether or not she would relay that information to someone on the outside, which of course, that's exactly what she does. You kind of get a feeling that that's not going to end well for her in some way. And of course, we kind of saw the turn that took by the end of the episode, so we will get to that in a little bit as well. We then see Talos and Gravik have their meeting together, and Gravik added a lot of sugar into his coffee.
I like a little bit of espresso with my sugar.
During the scene, you're kind of wondering what exactly it is that they're going to talk about. Talos basically threatens to out his plan to everyone so that they lose the element of surprise. Things escalate a little bit. He threatens Gaia's life by saying he should have sent her to him in a body bag. Then of course Talos ends up stabbing him in the hand. And during that scene, you also find out that everyone around them are Skrulls as well, and they take on Gravik's human-like form. That is just, again, another example of how you never really know who you're talking to and who's in the room around you as well. Just when you thought that they were in a public place surrounded by regular people and that they might have been the only Skrulls in the room, it turns out that everybody in the room was in fact Skrulls. Gravik always seems to remain a step ahead. I do find that Talos and Gravik's conversation about Gaia is interesting. The way they talked in this scene, it almost sounded as if Talos owed Gravik something. You know, the way that he was saying, "You're lucky I haven't sent her back in a body bag," it's almost as if to say, "I'm keeping her alive for now in exchange for something from you." So I don't know what that is. I find the whole dynamic between Talos, Gravik, and Gaia to be kind of questionable. I think there's maybe perhaps more to that story. We still never actually found out how Gaia came to work for Gravik. We never saw that part of the story unfold, and how Gaia's mother actually died. We just know based off of what Talos has said that she died at the hands of Gravik. Another interesting thing about the scene is when you see Talos go outside as he's leaving, he bumps into another man, and the man picks up his phone and says, "I believe this is yours." I found that scene to be kind of odd. Just the way that it happened almost made me question, was that really Talos's phone, or was the man giving him a different type of phone? Or did Talos really drop his phone and the man swap Talos's phone with his own phone so that they could find out information from Talos's phone? I'm not really clear on that, but that scene kind of just happened in such an awkward way that it made me think that there was more to it. I don't believe that actually gets addressed in the episode. So either it was an insignificant occurrence, or we're gonna find out more about that in the following episodes. In the next scene, we see Talos at a restaurant having what I might add, what looks to be a very delicious breakfast. And in comes Fury, and they have a conversation about how Fury has a lead on a rebel Skrull that's high up in the US government. I don't believe that this was related to the overall plan, infiltrating the Navy base and striking the UN. I believe it has something to do with potentially having a lead on one of the members of the Skrull Council, which we'll probably see play out in one of the later episodes. During the scene, we basically see Fury and Talos engage in playful banter, in which Talos wants Fury to know how valuable he is to him and how much Fury actually needs his assistance. We then see them take a car ride in which they reveal that Gaia did hand them off intel. We then see Fury make a call to none other than Sonia Falsworth, who we saw last episode being a complete bitch, honestly, interrogating that guy so brutally. She's now in an office. We still don't know exactly what it is she does. She's kind of shady, but she's in some sort of office. And it's revealed that she found the bug that Fury left in her owl's eye. She reveals that she's had a leak of her own in which somebody leaked the location of the butcher shop she was at in the previous episode. So that's something else that we're gonna have to see play out in the upcoming episodes. But nonetheless, despite finding out that Nick Fury essentially was spying on her, she still agrees to help him and gives him the name of the submarine captain, and his name is Robert Fairbanks. And that is basically who they pursue in order to shut this whole plan of Gravik's down. We see Talos and Fury take a car ride to Bob's house, or Robert Fairbanks. And in the car ride, Talos lets it be known how much he's done for Fury to help him out. And on one hand, you can interpret it as them just again exchanging playful banter. But on the other hand, you kind of wonder if Talos deep down feels that Fury owes him. Will this play into something bigger down the road? He's basically taking credit for a lot of things that he's helped Fury do. He and the Skrulls have been around before the Avengers. So is it going to be a thing where eventually Talos uses his connection to Fury to his advantage, and perhaps he uses what he knows about Fury against him somehow? So they go and infiltrate the house of Bob, and of course it doesn't go smoothly. Fury receives a call from Talos trying to lure him to one of the other rooms, but of course I didn't even catch this initially. He would call him by his first name, Nick, over the phone, and that's how he knew that that wasn't really Talos speaking. You then see a bit of back and forth ensue between Fury, Talos, and Bob, and then Fury ends up shooting him in the leg, which I didn't expect. You just honestly never know what Fury is gonna do, I swear. But nonetheless, Bob refuses to give up the code that will stop this strike from happening. Talos ends up shooting him dead, which is also surprising because in that moment you're wondering how is he gonna get the code, right? But then of course they end up calling Gaia and leave it to her to get the code. So at this point, she's definitely risking it all, and you could see where her loyalties lie, and they are no longer with Gravik, but they are now with Talos and Fury. And this is where we see Gaia go to the area where all the humans are being held and their memories are being extracted for the Skrulls' use. So she finds Bob's holding cell, incubator, whatever you want to call it, and was able to find that the password was Zachary, the name of his son. I have a couple questions about that actually. I really wonder if she heard or saw him make that code, or whether or not she just guessed that that might have been the code because his son's name was Zachary. And also, it makes you wonder if his son Zachary is also a Skrull, or if he really is a human and he doesn't realize that his dad was taken by Skrulls. That would be messed up.
Are you gonna kill my dad?
We didn't actually see the son being held in that area. We just saw the father. So yeah, I kind of wonder about that. Nonetheless, Gaia's able to get the code for Talos and Fury. And so they're able to put a stop and abort this plan. So that ends up working out and everything's all good, right? No, because now that Gaia has done this, she has no option but to escape because she's obviously openly turned her back on New Skrullos. I gotta say, I wasn't expecting Gaia to turn this early. I definitely thought it'd be maybe the last 2 episodes that we'd see her have a change of heart and start working with her father again. But instead, she turned good this episode. But this whole time you're wondering, when is Gravik gonna find her? Because Gravik seemed to already be onto her, potentially being the leak within their rebel crew. From the beginning of the episode, he approached her about it, and then he deliberately revealed that intel in front of her, and then she relayed it to Talos and Fury shortly after. By the end of the episode, we see that he does catch her as she's trying to make her escape. And then he ends up shooting her, which I honestly did not expect that. And there's a part of me that wonders if she truly is dead, but then you do see her revert back to her Skrull form. And when they're dead, that usually happens. So if that's the case, that's gonna be really sad and disappointing. On one hand, I'd be sad that her character got killed off, and thinking about how Talos will react to that, not only losing his wife, but also now losing his daughter. And is he gonna feel any guilt about that? Is he gonna feel as though she died trying to help him? Is that gonna embolden him even more to really wanna kill Gravik now? But it's also disappointing because I was hoping to see more of her character and her character go further. I really kind of wanted her to fully switch sides and then at least fight alongside Talos and Fury for a bit, and then maybe end up dying in the battlefield or something at the hands of Gravik. But it just shows again that Gravik does not care. He does not hesitate to kill his own when he sees it as being a necessary sacrifice for the greater good. I've always had a problem with that idea, that the sacrifice for the greater good. We've seen it in other shows as well. We've seen it in Andor, for example, with Luthen. We saw it in The Bad Batch with Saw Gerrera. This idea of killing your own people for a greater good has never really sat too well with me, because I think when you get too far down that line, you end up becoming the evil that you were supposed to be fighting against. Gravik, safe to say, is definitely way too far down that line to turn back now. He had no problem killing Gaia. He even said that even though the plan failed, it succeeded because he was able to find out who the traitor was. Is that him just making the best of a failed plan, or was that his plan all along to orchestrate this whole thing, knowing that it might get aborted just to find out who the traitor was within his organization? If that's the case, it just shows again how much he is several steps ahead constantly, and it makes you wonder, what other plans does he have? If he's okay with taking this loss, there must be something else much bigger up his sleeve, and we can infer that it has something to do with that Skrull machine and his plan to create super Skrulls. The last scene of the previous episode showed Nick Fury's wife, and now the last scene of this episode shows Nick Fury's wife yet again. We see her heading out somewhere. She ends up going to get a safety deposit box. She opens the box and there's a gun inside, and she takes a phone call, and we still don't know who's on the other end of this phone. We just know that it's some man, and she asks to speak to Gravik. Could that man be one of Gravik's right-hand men? Or could that be Gravik she's actually speaking to, but just in a different form, not the form that we're used to seeing him? Either way, you kind of wonder what his wife is up to. You had Fury initially say that he wanted to know who she'd become over the recent years and whether or not she'd been in contact with Gravik, and here she is asking for Gravik. Is it possible that she really is working for the Skrulls now? They did discuss earlier about how she felt during Nick Fury's absence. During that time, is it possible that she maybe got closer to the Skrulls? And perhaps that is always a risk, isn't it, of having a human Skrull relationship. Even with Talos, the same could be said, is you never know when they're gonna side with you or when they're gonna potentially side with their own. Fury and Talos even have that playful exchange regarding the relationship between humans and dogs, given that they're different species, and it was ironic because obviously the relationship between human and Skrull is an interspecies relationship as well. But either way, there's still maybe more to this scene than we think, guys. On one hand, you could look at it as maybe she's working for Gravik and doing something behind Fury's back. On the other hand, you might think that maybe she's trying to meet him in person to kill him, because there was a gun in that safety deposit box after all. So what is she planning on doing with that gun? I guess we'll just have to wait and see, guys. Anyways, guys, that was definitely a solid episode. A couple things happened that we didn't expect necessarily. I did not expect Gaia to get shot like that. It is going to be a shame, again, I think, if she is already off the show, because I would have hoped to have seen more of her, like I said. So I guess we'll have to see next episode episode. If she is in fact really dead though, one thing I will say is the series might be kind of quick to kill off people. First with Maria Hill in the first episode, now with Gaia in just the third episode, and we're only halfway through. It would be nice, I think, for them to keep their characters around a little bit longer to see them go through more development and things happen to them before like just getting rid of them. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. If all of this has already happened in the first half, who knows what we're in store for the latter half. But anyways, guys, as always, leave a comment for me letting me know your thoughts on the episode and what your predictions are as well. And as always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, guys. And I will see you next week for an all new episode of Secret Invasion. Until next time, guys, take care and see you soon.